My story is much too sad to be told, but practically everything leaves me totally cold. The only exception I know is the case when I'm out on a quiet spree, fighting vainly the old ennui. And I suddenly turn and see your fabulous face. I get no kick from champagne, mere alcohol, it doesn't move me at all. So tell me, why should it be true that I get a kick out of you? Someday may go for cocaine. I'm sure that if I took even one sniff, it would bore me terrifically too. However, I do get a kick out of you. I get a kick every time I see you standing there before me. I get a kick, though it's clear to see that you obviously, you do not adore me. I get no kick in a plane, flying too high with some gal in the sky is my idea of nothing to do. But I get a kick, you give me a boot, I get a kick out of you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am broadcasting today live from the fabulous Hollywood Palladium. Now, it may look like it, but not really. This is Chuck's recording studio, such as it is. Welcome to the February edition of my little musical adventure. This particular video I'm dedicating to Sinatra, the best of the Capitol years. And it's pretty difficult to narrow down which were the absolute best. He did so many incredible recordings from 1953 until 1960, which were the years he was with Capitol Records, that it's very difficult to pick out the best of those. But I'm trying to do today the ones that I think were the most popular. This one, this next song was actually recorded by Frank in 1953. And this recording largely was credited with putting Frank Sinatra's recording career and his singing career back on track. In fact, it was such a huge hit in 1953, it kind of lapped over into 1954, and when Frank Sinatra and Doris Day were filming the movie Young at Heart, which was a remake of the 1938 movie Four Daughters, that on the strength of this recording, they changed the name of the movie to Young at Heart. So anyway, here's the beautiful Nelson Riddle arrangement of Young at Heart. Fairy tales can come true, it can happen to you if you're young at heart. For it's hard, you will find, to be narrow of mind if you're young at heart. You can go to extremes with impossible schemes. You can laugh when your dreams fall apart at the seams. And life gets more exciting with each passing day. Love is either in your heart or on its way. Don't you know that it's worth every treasure on earth to be young at heart? For as rich as you are, it's much better by far to be young at heart. And if you should survive to 105, look at all you'll derive out of being alive. And here is the best part: you have a head start if you are among the very young at heart. And if you should survive to 105, look at all you'll derive out of being alive. And here is the best part: you have a head start if you are among the very young at heart. Beautiful song. You know, when I get to perform that song for residents in assisted living and retirement communities, I often like to tell the story. A few years ago, Cheryl and I were going to be performing at a luxurious um, retirement community in a place called Forest Grove, Oregon. And when we got there pretty early because I'd never been there. And we went into uh, the auditorium slash dining hall of this facility. It was gigantic. And so we got there early, so I'm setting up the equipment. And way back in the back corner of the auditorium, the door opened and a little lady came walking through with her walker, and she was covered from her white hair to her white shoes, all in white. She looked like an angel pushing a walker. Anyway, she came through the auditorium and came all the way up to about 5 or 6 tables away from where we were sitting up on the stage, and I waved at her hi. So anyway, I sang that song. So when I was done performing that day, one of the caregivers motioned for me and called for me to come over to where this little lady was sitting at the table. And so the caregiver said, "Chuck, I'd like you to meet Jenny." And so I said, "Hi, Jenny, how are you?" And so the caregiver said, "She's a little nervous, but she'd like for you to know that today is her birthday." And I said, "Oh, happy birthday. I wish I'd known that." And she said, "Not only is it her birthday, but today she turns 105." And I looked at her and smiled, and I said, "Jenny, can I tell you something? And you won't get embarrassed." And she said, "Oh, no." And I said, "You're officially the oldest person I ever sang to." Anyway, it's time for a commercial. It's Harry James time. This is a book that I wrote almost a year ago now, and I'm really proud of it. It's called Harry James Trumpet Icon, and this is the musical biography of Harry James. And it doesn't tell all the sordid facts of his life. That's already been addressed. This is about his music and how he became the world's greatest trumpet player and one of the most successful band leaders of all time. And it gives you an opportunity to not only hear Harry's story from my perspective, but also from the perspective of many of the musicians that had worked in his band. Harry James Trumpet Icon. It's available on Amazon.com. If you type in Harry James Trumpet Icon or even Harry James and go to the book category, it'll come up. It's available in paperback for $21.99, and it's available as an ebook for $9.99. So if you haven't got a copy yet, I hope you'll pick it up. I think you'll really enjoy it. Anyway, it's time to play a Harry James tune. And a couple of months ago, my friend Daniel Scurry had requested Velvet Moon, and I had to do a little legwork in order to come up with the background and the music to be able to play that pretty challenging ballad that Harry did. But anyway, I got to thinking, are there any other Harry James tunes that I haven't played? And I realized that in the over 52 years now that I played trumpet, I never attempted to play Harry's recording of The Man with the Horn. It was recorded in 1945. It's a Ray Conniff arrangement. The song actually had been written by the great trombonist Jack Jenney and his then wife Bonnie Lake. And it was introduced on records by Boyd Rayburn and his orchestra. But then Harry recorded it, and virtually every trumpet player of that day has recorded it. Randy Brooks had an amazing recording of it. Charlie Shavers, Al Hurt did a recording of it. In fact, I think Ray Anthony adapted the song to be his theme song. He recorded it. And so I wanted to play Man with a Horn, but I couldn't find a track. And every time I tried to use audio engineering to reduce Harry's presence on the recording, it just didn't work. So I found a background recording of all places. It was recorded by the Munich Brass. So it's all brass. There's no rhythm section, no saxophones. But anyway, it serves as a background for me to play Harry's recording of Man with a Horn. Now, on the Man with a Horn recording by Harry James, it featured Willie Smith on alto saxophone to open the recording, and then Harry came in and played a part of a chorus, and then Willie finished it out. Well, I'm going to play Willie Smith's part and attempt to play Harry's part. I hope you enjoy Harry James' version of Man with the Horn. something like that. Let me hit the pause button. If you haven't got your copy of Harry James' trumpet icon, I hope you'll do that. And back to the Capitol Classics. Here's one that Frank recorded in 1956. You know, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, and I'm learning more and more about it because I have a good friend, John Friselli, who lives up in Brooklyn, New York. And we talk quite a bit about Frank Sinatra, and he's in love with the Capitol Years. And many of the songs that became Sinatra classics were not recorded on an album. They were recorded as singles and then eventually found their way on album compilations over the years. And so this next song is one of those songs. This was recorded in 1956, and it's one of the most swinging of all the Capitol classics by Frank Sinatra. It's called Learnin' the Blues. The tables are empty, the dance floor is deserted. You play the same love song, it's the 10th time you've heard it. That's the beginning, just one of the clues. You've had your first lesson in learning the blues. The cigarettes you light, one after another, won't help you forget her and the way that you love her. You're only burning a torch you can't lose. You're on the right track for learning the blues. When you're at home alone, the blues will taunt you constantly. When you're out in a crowd, the blues will haunt your memory. The nights when you don't sleep, the whole night you're crying, but you can't forget her. Soon you even stop trying. You'll walk the floor and you'll wear out your shoes. When you feel your heart break, you're learning the blues. When you're at home alone, the blues will taunt you constantly. When you're out in a crowd, the blues will haunt your memory. And the nights when you don't sleep, and the whole night you're crying, but you can't forget her. And soon you even stop trying. You'll walk the floor and you'll wear out your shoes. When you feel your heart break, you're learning those blues. When Frank Sinatra moved over to Capitol Records in 1953, his career was kind of a mess. And he had just appeared in a movie called From Here to Eternity, and he won the Best Supporting Actor Oscar for that. And so, although Mitch Miller at Columbia Records had dumped Frank Sinatra about the time that movie came out, Capitol Records decided to roll the dice on a struggling superstar. And so when Capitol Records started teaming Frank Sinatra up with arrangers like Nelson Riddle and Billy May, his recording career took off. And of course, Young at Heart, I've Got the World on a String, those were big hits that really propelled him toward a new era in recording for singers, and that is the concept album. 1955, Frank had a couple of albums come out that were concept albums. In other words, he wanted to start and finish the album with a train of thought, with a thread of a theme. And of course, when you have songs for swinging lovers, you know there's every tune on that is going to swing. But in 1955, Frank recorded an album with Nelson Riddle, and every song on that album was a torch song. The classic album cover that you saw there with Frank standing under the lamppost really identified who Frank Sinatra was in the 50s and for most of his career after that. But the album was called In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning, and so I'd like to do the Nelson Riddle Frank Sinatra arrangement of that for you. Of the morning, when the whole wide world is fast asleep, you lie awake and think about the girl and never ever think of counting sheep. When you're alone, learned its lesson, you'd be hers if only she would come in the wee small hours of the morning. That's the time you miss her most. You'd be hers if only she would come in the wee small hours of the morning. That's the time you miss her most. Well, I mentioned the album called Songs for Swingin' Lovers. Here's a tune from that album, arranged by Nelson Riddle. You're just too marvelous for words. like glorious, glamorous, and that old standby amorous. It's all too wonderful. I'll never find the phrase that says enough, tells enough. I mean, they're just not swell enough. You're much, too much, and just too very, very to ever be in Webster's dictionary. And so I'm borrowing a love song from the birds to tell you that you're marvelous, too marvelous for words. You're much, you're too much, and just too very, very to ever be, to ever wind up in the dictionary. And so I'm borrowing a love song from the birds to tell you that you're marvelous, tell you that you're wonderful, tell you that you're marvelous, too marvelous for words. Oh, I think I hurt myself. Oh, when you haven't sung in a couple of weeks, that last note's a killer. Anyway, uh, speaking of concept albums, the last album that Frank Sinatra did for Capitol Records was called Nice and Easy. And originally, it was going to be called something else. Because the theme of the concept of the album was, again, some torch songs and beautiful classic love songs arranged by Nelson Riddle. But this song, Nice and Easy, had come along, and Bill Miller played it for Frank, and Frank hated it. He said, I don't like that. So anyway, they began putting together the songs for this album, and Hank Sanacola, who was Frank Sinatra, I don't know what the proper term for him was, but he was Frank's right-hand man all through the 40s and into the 50s. And he started, every time he got a chance around Frank, he would play that on the piano. And so they were finishing up a performance, and Hank Sanacola started playing the song, and so Frank said, "What's that? What's that thing you're playing?" And he said, "Oh, it's a new song, Frank, that you're going to do on your next album." He said, "Well, you better get it over to Nelson." And so that's really how the album came about. And I'm actually going to do Nice and Easy here shortly for you. But one of the other beautiful classic arrangements on that album was Embraceable You. And in fact, Frank had first recorded Embraceable You on Columbia with the now classic trumpet part from Bobby Hackett. But Nelson saw the song a little differently, and so he wrote a completely different type of an arrangement for Embraceable You. Anyway, I'm going to play this on the trumpet rather than sing it, because this was a song that was a favorite of Harry James. He used to play it whenever he got a chance. In fact, occasionally, even though the Ray Conniff arrangement was written as a girl vocal, once in a while Harry would play it as a trumpet solo. And so I'd like to play the Nelson Riddle arrangement for Frank Sinatra on the trumpet, do a little Harry James style trumpet on Embraceable You. Embraceable You. And now, here's that other song that I mentioned on the album. Is this working? Hello, can you hear me now? Anyway, this is from the album Nice and Easy. Let's take it nice and easy. It's gonna be so easy for us to fall in love. Hey baby, what's your hurry? Relax, don't you worry. We're gonna fall in love. safe to say, but let's make all the stops along the way. The problem now, of course, is to simply hold your horses. To rush would be a crime, 'cause nice and easy does it every time. We're on that road to romance, that's safe to say, but let's make all the stops along the way. The problem now, of course, is to simply hold our horses. To rush would be a crime. Ah, nice and easy does it. Nice and easy does it. Nice and easy does it every time. Like the man said one more time. Nice and easy does it. Nice and easy does it. Nice and easy does it every time. Anyway, I mentioned a few moments ago the classic album, Songs for Swingin' Lovers, with all those great Nelson Riddle arrangements. And the story goes that Bill Miller had, the piano player, Frank's piano player for forever, had suggested that, hey, we need one more, Nelson, we need one more song for the album. And so Nelson had decided he wanted to write an arrangement of I've Got You Under My Skin by Cole Porter. Now, if you're a Frank Sinatra fan and you don't have this book, you need to get it. You need to try to find a copy of it. It was written by Will Friedwald. It is the definitive book on Frank Sinatra's music. It's called Sinatra, The Song Is You, A Singer's Art. Anyway, he goes into some details in this book about this arrangement. And the story goes that Nelson had called a taxi cab and literally sat in the back seat of a taxi cab and wrote the parts to I've Got You Under My Skin out. And when he had gotten to the middle, he got to the studio, he hadn't finished the arrangement yet. And so he had called trombonist Milt Bernhardt, who has the classic trombone solo in this recording. He said, do you get any ideas? I want to do kind of a jungle theme, a little Latin jungle theme in the middle of this to transition to the key change. And so Milt Bernhardt had suggested that that Nelson steal part of a tune called 23 Degrees North, 82 Degrees West, written by Bill Russo for the Stan Kenton Band. And so after you hear this recording, after you hear my version of this, go on YouTube and type 23 degrees north, 82 degrees west into YouTube and pull it up, and you'll see that Nelson stole the trombone battle in the middle of that from whole cloth, really, and put it into the middle of this. Anyway, for the rest of Frank's career, he had to sing this every night, and he always introduced it as being Cole Porter's finest song and Nelson Riddle's shining hour. Nelson Riddle's greatest arrangement. And so here is the Nelson Riddle Frank Sinatra version of I've Got You Under My Skin. I've got you under my skin. I've got you deep in the heart of me, so deep in my heart that you're really a part of me. I've got you under my skin. I've tried so not to give in. I have said to myself, this affair, it ain't gonna go so well. But why should I try to resist when, baby, I know so well that I've got you under my skin. I'd sacrifice anything, come what might, for the sake of having you near, in spite of a warning voice that comes in the night and repeats in my ear. Don't you know, little fool, you never can win. Use your mentality, wake up to reality. And each time that I do, just the thought of you makes me stop before I begin. 'Cause I've got you under my skin. I would sacrifice anything, come what might, for the sake of having you near, in spite of a warning voice comes in the night and repeats how it yells in my ear. Don't you know, little fool, you can never win. Use your mentality, wake up, step up to reality. And each time that I do, just the thought of you makes me stop before I begin. 'Cause I've got you under my skin, and I like you under my skin. There you have it, folks. Sinatra, the Capitol classic, with a little Harry James thrown in there. Once again, if you enjoy what I do and the effort that goes into these little videos, feel free to contribute to my project on PayPal. And I hope you enjoy the music today. I hope you'll run out and get a copy of Harry James Trumpet Icon. And until we meet again next time, have a great weekend. We're right here in Portland, Oregon. They think that the storm of the century is coming. We might get 2 inches, I don't know. But anyway, it's kind of cold out there. I hope you can stay warm where you're at. Have a great weekend. Thanks.